ways to do that?
We puppets.
Puppets, I love that one. Does anyone have any others they want to share?
We have little stop-go things too.
Oh, you're already using those?
We use them.
Awesome.
During circle time, we have that, we pick like a rule helper who says the rules.
A rule helper.
Yeah.
Perfect. Say that again. Oh, act it out. So depending on age, you know, if that's possible, have them act it out. I like that one. Did you have one?
Yeah, for listening ears, we play like a whisper game. It's simple, like the whisper.
I've seen that also work very effectively with adults. Usually I'm in the audience, the one that's who wants to talk. Does anyone have any others they want to share?
Providing the parents with the words that you use so that they can be consistent at home.
Awesome. That is awesome.
For younger kids, a lot of times, like if you're saying gentle hands, then showing them what gentle hands means, because you can't just say gentle hands and they're not going to get that at first. Just showing them what you mean.
So modeling the behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was shown really great in the video. I think it was farther along in the process. Children already knew what that meant. But just to reinforce that, the teacher said, I believe her words were, "Show me what gentle hands mean," or something like that. And they all, you know, pat each other on the back. It's just a great way to reinforce. Shelley?
Well, this one would be more of a reinforcer too after it's been taught by later in the year, but to have like compliment time, where kids can compliment each other on things that they saw them doing, like if your rule was respect your things, how did you see your friends respecting your things during playtime or whatever?
So on our list here, I wrote fill your classmate's bucket. Is everyone familiar with that term, filling the bucket? Cool. So yeah, that's definitely something that you can apply throughout work, throughout life. You know, filling your coworker's bucket, that would be a great way to model behavior for your kids. Hey, Jen, I saw you prepare snack really well today. Thanks for doing that. You know, the children might see that and say, oh, I saw Johnny help Jen. Johnny, great job. I mean, that would be really great. But so filling other people's buckets I put on there. Awesome. So that's a really, really good list. Does anyone have anything that they want to add? So, you know, these are things that, you know, strategies that we have right here. So, you know, I encourage you guys to write these down, take these with you. So thank you for sharing those. So this is just a quick little quote about engagement, just providing opportunities for learning. Is there anyone that wants to read it? Maria, thank you.
Being actively engaged during routines, including transitions, eliminates wasted time and provides an opportunity for learning.
And I think it just kind of touches back on what we talked about a little bit earlier, that when children have downtime, it's an opportunity for them to engage in challenging behavior because they're going to just come up with whatever they see in front of them. I think transitions can be a really, really tough time, and this next slide that we're going to look at are some strategies for smooth transitions. This is a really great slide to think about later. So a few of those essentials are making sure you first have the children's attention. I know that when I've been working with children, I will, you know, present an expectation or present a rule to a child and they are not even listening. Well, how can I expect them to learn that and have that learning moment if they're not even listening? So making sure that you have the child's attention is really important. Using pictures, cues like that, salient cues, relevant cues. Teaching children your expectations during those transitions is really important. Using positive language, we've talked a lot about that today. Letting the child know what will happen next. We've talked a lot, I believe Michelle talked a lot about too, about those first then charts, contingency statements that we'll talk about in a little bit. beginning the activity when children are ready. And I acknowledge that that is a tough one, because when you have 8 children in a classroom, to think that they're all gonna be ready at the exact same time is quite unrealistic. So I know that's a tough one. But then reinforcing for children when they transition appropriately. When you can catch a child doing something appropriate, you wanna acknowledge that. And there are also 3 great handouts. One's from the CEPL website, one is from the NACI website, and then there's some other information about transitions and smooth transitions. So I just want to point out those handouts. It's handout 9.2A, 9.2B, and 9.3, if you want to go look at those later. So when talking about those smooth transitions, they can be a lot smoother, not only for the children, but also smoother for you if you have the opportunity to plan ahead. For example, minimizing the number of transitions that children have in a day is going to make not only their lives easier, but it's going to make your life easier as well. Minimizing the length of time children spend waiting with nothing to do. We've talked about that quite a bit in the past few minutes. If you can be prepared for the upcoming activity, if it's going to be puzzle time or free play time, but everything is put away, that transition is going to be really tough. Because if you say, okay kids, it's free time play, go play freely, but the toys are put away or the markers are out of reach, that's going to be a tough transition time. Preparing children for transitions by providing a warning, such as a timer, things like that. We'll actually, in the next couple slides, we'll talk about some other visual cues. That's an auditory cue, but some other cues that you can use. And then structuring the transitions so that children have something to do while they wait. So if they did a really great job and they're ready to go, maybe they might have something to do while they're waiting. So some of those, and I know we've touched on this, but some of those visual cues, I know we've talked about a lot of them, but we haven't touched on these ones yet. I think a really great one is turning off the lights to signal transitions. It of course depends on your classroom. If you have a really bright classroom, such as if I shut off the lights in this room, some people might not notice because it wouldn't make much of a difference. But that can be a really great tool if you have a darker classroom or if the shades are down, something like that. Pictures on the floor, telling children where to line up, whether that's to go outside, to line up to wash their hands, things like that. Using pictures of the children can be really helpful. And then the visual cues of how to do that transition, such as the transition between circle time to snack time. That routine, within that routine, could be washing your hands. So putting up some visual cues by the sink might help children to go through that transition a little bit more smoothly. So these are just some examples of transitions at different stages. So yeah, some transitions at different stages. This one on the top left, I believe, is using the first then chart. There's also some visual schedules in there. And this is an example of a first then chart. Are there people that are already using this in their classroom? Just one? So first then charts are super easy to make and they can be super, super helpful. It really was awesome the other night during Positive Solutions, that parenting class, to hear how well this worked for that parent. I mean, she was genuinely excited. Maybe this is something that you guys would really like to try, is these first then charts. You use them a lot. I see Michelle shaking her head over there. How many do you have in your classroom?
We have 2 classes. I do a morning class and an afternoon class, so 15 each.
Oh, okay, great. And you really like that first then chart?
Yeah, we have a little girl with Down syndrome, and she's nonverbal, and it works great with her. She knows what pictures mean, and she really likes the iPad and the computer and the boombox, and so she'll put then she wants this, so you know her favorite thing. So.
That is an awesome example. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. These charts are great. So maybe that's something that strategy that you guys can leave here with today and try to implement in your classroom. Another piece that can be really helpful to promote smooth transition is choices. This is just an example of lining up and the choices that you can choose. that you can choose to give to your children. One of the things that we impressed upon the parents is that when you give children, of course, there's a limited number of choices. The choices that you give them must be something that not only the child can deal with any choice they make, but also the teacher or the parent can deal with any choice they make. And I'll give an example of that. We talked about how sometimes adults have the tendency to say, if a child doesn't want to get in the car, well, you can get in the car or you can walk to school and it's snowing and it's 20 degrees. In that, parents or adults might be trying to get their child to make the logical choice. But if a child says, well, I want to walk, I'll see you later, and they start walking, you know, that's not something that everyone can deal with. So it's something you want to keep in mind when you're talking about choices. So this is an example of some circle seats. And I actually really like this example because not only does it identify each child's space in circle, but it also, with the picture of each individual child on there, the picture is also modeling the appropriate behavior. You can see that Emily is sitting in the exact same position, well, just about, I guess her hands are different, as the photo. So they find their photo and they're, oh, that's me, that's great. And they might look at the photo and think, that's how I sat for that photo. I want to model that same behavior. And this was, who talked about this earlier? I want to say it was Susan, maybe she's not, yeah, she must have stepped out for a minute. But oh, hi. Yeah, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Design a circle to promote smooth transitions. So, you, I believe, said that you have a bookcase near your circle time, or if you do, what would you do with that bookcase?
With a curtain or something less busy like that, but
I would agree, this is a little busy for me, but exactly. So, I mean, you can envision that if maybe you're using a timer goes off and it's time to come over to circle. Well, if there's 15 toys sitting next to the circle area, what are the children probably gonna do?
Play with the toys.
They're gonna play with the toys, exactly. So this is a preventative strategy for a smoother transition. So here's a few examples, and I think especially the one in the middle might be for older children. Turn taking at centers, which I can imagine, I'm not in the classroom every day, but that is definitely a source for some challenging behavior. When Johnny's on the computer and little Sally really wants the computer, that can cause some challenging behavior. So implementing these preventative strategies that help with turn taking can really help in classrooms. So timers is something else that we talked about today. You know, it's a really great tool for helping children to know not only the transition, but understanding when it's coming. So I always picture a kitchen timer, just like the one in the middle. If you can show children, little Johnny, you have 2 more minutes on this computer, and you set that timer down, and you put it to 2 minutes, then he has a visual representation of that 2 minutes, rather than just the mental thought of it. He can see that time is going by, and in 2 minutes, it's gonna ding. And then you're gonna come back and say, Johnny, you're all done. Timers can be really helpful. So this is a visual cue paired with an auditory cue, and it's a 5-minute Velcro glove. And you can see there are a couple different examples on here. Has anyone ever used this before? Yeah, it was something I was unfamiliar with as well before I started Pyramid. But especially, you know, we talked about puppets a little bit. This could be a really great way to reach children who are visually stimulated. And we're actually going to watch a quick video. We're actually going to watch 2 videos. But one of the videos we're going to watch is a teacher who is using this strategy.
Okay, listeners, 5 more minutes to play. 5 more minutes to play. Ay, quick, Carla, mira. 5 more minutes to play. Carla, can you remove number 5? How many minutes? How many minutes now? 4. 4. There you go. That means 3 more minutes. We're right here, right here. Okay, guys, 3 more minutes.
5-minute, Velcro hand gives children a chance to have some, even if it's for a brief couple seconds, a little individualized attention. You go over, Maria, can you help me? Can you help me go from 5 minutes to 4 minutes? And take that off. There's that moment of individualized attention where that child is focused on you and you are focused on that child. And sometimes that individual attention can be a tough thing to find with so many kids in a busy classroom all day. So now we're going to watch a quick little video that's going to kind of exemplify a smooth transition to go from inside to outside. And just be thinking about, all the strategies that we talked about, and then we'll kind of report back afterwards with what strategies we saw.
All right, Francis, Melissa is done. We're gonna use our walking feet to go to the gate. All right, good walking feet, you guys.
So what did you guys see in that video? What strategies did you see being used?
Well, first of all, naming the expectation, we're going to use walking feet, and then praising them after they did.
What else did you see?
They have a little red light, green light.
And that was the second thing that I caught on. I caught on to that one first, and then I saw that. And she wasn't holding it up here saying, okay, green light, red light. She was down at their level where they could see the visual cue. So I thought that was a really great one. Did anybody see any other one?
No, I have a question.
Oh, you can ask a question.
Okay, it's kind of like a group question then.
I love group questions.
Okay, so I'm in the 1.5 to 2-year-old group, and I was wondering if anyone had any ideas for transitioning 9 toddlers to get them dressed in their snow gear and outside in a timely manner without them freaking out or having to wait. This is my first year having to get kids changed into their snow gear. So, like the other day we did it, took us almost 20 minutes to get everyone changed, because then we had to change them first and then put on their sunscreen and then get their clothes on.
Seems like average to me.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a really good, a great question though, because I think a lot of people may have this same tough transition in their day. And did you have something you wanted to add?
What was successful for me last year was doing small group activities before we went outside. So say there's other groups outside, or like say in our multi-purpose room and then another one over somewhere else. The one that's in the classroom first does their snow clothes and goes out, and then the next one comes in, does their snow clothes and goes out, and then third.
Yeah.
And then the same with going in, taking the small groups in first, undressing them, and then going to lunch. Or giving them jobs. While everyone gets in and stuff.
Do you have any help at all, Maria, or do you have anyone helping you? I'm just curious.
Do I what?
Do you have a helper or anyone helping you?
There's 3 of us in the room, but it's usually, like, we try to get them changed, like their diapers changed, and then as soon as they're done, we try to get them dressed, so that kind of takes one person away. So then it's 2 people changing 8 kids who are not thrilled with the snow clothes as it is.
Maybe allowing them to rest time for free play, and then having like one person, as like 3 kids are done doing diapers,
Yeah.
having those 3 kids get snow clothes on and go out first, and then those 3 kids are the first to read from bed.
When I worked in the 1-year-old room for a long time, and we would close the sectors, but pull out a couple bins of toys that were easy to clean up and not a lot of pieces. So the kids that were waiting to get their snow clothes on had an activity to do, and it was a couple different choices, and then, you kind of shuffle through the kids, but, so they weren't just sitting there with nothing to do. And that seemed to help.
We did it the other day, and it was just like, we ended up doing our activity, and then as we were changing them, the room just got destroyed again.
Yeah.
So, just thought I'd ask for people who can.
No, I think that was a great one that Jen just brought up. And Maria, thank you so much for asking that question. Other people might have the same questions, so it's always great to ask questions. But that was something we talked about earlier, was that the children that do a really great job transitioning, you can acknowledge that. Johnny, you are all dressed and ready to go. Great job. Why don't you play with this puzzle while you wait for Sally? you know, and maybe distracting them a little bit so they don't pull every piece of paper out of your writing center. Did you have something you want to add?
Yeah, something we do with our 3-year-olds is have them put their snow pants and boots on and then sit down for snack time, so they're not totally dressed up in all their gear. Or they're halfway there. And then they just.
Oh, you put them on, okay.
Yeah. But I know, like with a lot of years, they'd have one-piece suits, but you could always like do it halfway, have them sit down in that, so that when they're done with snack, you zip them up, put their gloves and hat on, turn off the door.
So do you feel like you got a few strategies made from that? Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for your input. So it's important to remember that as, you know, we're talking about these transitions and expectations and rules, that you may have to implement some modifications or adaptations for children with special needs. You know, you want them to feel, like we talked about earlier, that they are just one of the kids. But some things you might have to do might be environmental arrangement, so you might have to rearrange things for a child who might have low mobility. Material modification is another one. Simplifying the activity, special equipment, again, that can be for a child who has low mobility. Peer support, adult support, and that could be for a child who has some high emotional needs. You may need, you know, that extra set of hands. You may need another adult to support you in that classroom during maybe a tough transition or maybe during the whole day. Some invisible support and some child preferences. Again, talking about giving children that chance to make those choices. So now we're going to do another activity, and this activity we're going to do in groups of 2. We're going to do in partners, and what we're going to do is we're going to focus on one specific transition. So with your partner, and you can choose a partner who works with a different age group or with the exact same age group. It can be the person next to you at your table if you like. And you're going to choose a transition. It can be hand washing, cleaning up, to and from circle time. It can be lining up. Whichever transition might be really tough for you, I would recommend choosing that one so we can, you know, focus on it a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to break down the transition. We're going to analyze it a little bit. So you're going to decide the transition, and then you're going to start with the steps. From start to finish, what are the steps of that transition? And then you're going to brainstorm some ideas for teaching children each of those steps that you identified, and teaching the expectations, teaching the appropriate behaviors around that. And then we'll kind of talk about that afterwards. So I'll give you guys a couple minutes, and I know we've been sitting a lot, so if you and your partner want to go talk out in the hallway, or you want to sit on the floor, you're welcome to do that as well. And I'll give you guys about, let's see, about 10 minutes to talk to your partner, and then we'll come back. So make sure you're back in here.